Am I audible to all of you? Am I audible? Okay. Okay. Akanksha Naikre, please mention your roll number. Rashmi Hande, am I audible to you? Hande Rashmi. Rashmi Hande, please mention your roll number. Rashmi Hande, mention your roll number. Rashmi Hande, it should be your roll number, then your name. Okay. Anyone else referred to the source regarding thiamine? Yesterday's discussion related with rice and related with the groundnuts. Yes, anyone else referred to the textbook and tried to find the answer? Yes. And regarding rice, what you are supposed to know whenever you are talking about the supply of thiamine, mainly through the cereals, that is rice and wheat. Okay, so majority of Indians they get thiamine from rice. Okay, and even in yesterday's question, it was not mentioned whether it is polished rice, whether it is parboiled rice, or whether it is undermilled rice. Okay, in that case, you are supposed to see thiamine content, right? In that case, you are supposed to see thiamine content of that particular food, and accordingly, grading should be done. So, if we go in that way, definitely as compared to rice, your answer should be groundnut. Is it clear with this answer to all of you? Okay. So let's proceed further. Yes, this is just to have feel that we are in our department. This is our nutrition corner of our department. Yeah. We are supposed to talk about minerals. Okay. Today's topic we are going to start regarding the minerals. Now, as far as minerals is concerned, here we are going to start with very basic thing that you have studied in school. So, you might have studied different elements right from school level, right? So, we are talking about different elements here. As far as these elements are concerned, there are different chemical elements which are present in human body. Okay, and these elements where they are present either in bones, they are present in teeth, they are present in blood, they are present in muscles. So simply you can say there are various sites, various places in our body where we can find different chemical elements. Why these elements are present? Okay, why our body needs these elements? Functions in particular we will see in relation to particular element or particular mineral. But right now, just remember one of the most important function related with different elements is these elements, they play most important role in regulation of vital functions. Okay, so different vital functions in our body, they can be regulated with the help of these minerals or with the help of these elements. So if I will give you simple example of sodium and potassium, you know that sodium potassium pump and how it is essential. Okay, if I give example of calcium, you know that calcium, how it plays important role in muscle contraction and even cardiac activity. Okay, so there are so many important vital functions that are regulated by these chemical elements. Okay, other functions, growth, and in detail we will see the functions, but just in introductory part, try to understand our body contains several chemical elements. These elements are present at various places, and majority or few of them, you can say, they are concerned with regulation of different vital functions in our body. Now, as far as their number is concerned, how many chemical elements we can find in human body? The number given by K-Park is, this is more than 50 chemical elements that we can find in human body. But at the same time, if you refer to another textbook of community medicine, the author here has mentioned only minerals and the number given is 24. Okay. So what at least you are supposed to know is the number that is mentioned by K-Park. So what K-Park is saying, in human body more than 50 chemical elements we can find. Okay. Now as far as these more than 50 elements which are present in our body, these elements, they are divided into 3 categories. Okay, we are dividing these chemical elements into 3 categories, and these are major minerals, second one is trace elements, and the third criteria is trace contaminants. These are trace contaminants. Okay, once again I repeat, I am saying major minerals, trace elements and trace contaminants. As far as your exam is concerned, you may get 2-mark question related with major minerals, and frequently asked is on trace elements. So the first 2 columns that you are supposed to know for 2-mark question. Okay. So let's talk about the major minerals. So the examples that comes under major minerals is calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium and phosphorus. Purposefully I mentioned here symbols. The reason, in case if time runs out in your exam, you can just mention the symbols. Okay, your examiner will understand this. Okay, agar time kam padta hai to simply you can mention these symbols. Okay, so major minerals, there are 5 examples that are given by K-Park. We said this is calcium, this is magnesium, third is sodium, next important mineral as major mineral is potassium and phosphorus. So it's very simple, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium and phosphorus. Okay, as far as another criteria of dividing these elements is concerned, these are trace elements. These whatever things you can see in this column, we are calling these as trace elements because their daily requirement is very small. They are required in few milligrams. Okay, I said their daily requirement is very small. Trace elements, they are required in few milligrams. Okay, so the list is in front of you. You can see examples of trace elements. In trace elements, we are going to discuss about iron, Fe, I, that is iodine, F is symbol for fluorine, Cu is copper, Co is cobalt, Cr is chromium. Then Mn is manganese, Mb is molybdenum. There can be silicon, Si, and Se is selenium. Two more are included, that is nickel and vanadium. Okay, so at least the trace element which are clinically important, that you are supposed to mention in your answer. Okay, if you can remember all these things, well and good. Otherwise, don't forget to mention at least 4 important examples. So that includes iron, iodine, fluorine. In addition, you can mention any of the following. Okay, like selenium or anything. But don't forget, whenever question is asked on trace elements, in your answer there must be iron, iodine and fluorine, because these are the things which are clinically important, right? Third category, it is trace contaminants. In trace contaminants, those elements are included which do not have any known function in our body. Okay, they won't play any major role as far as functions is concerned, but still they are present. So it includes aluminium, barium, boron, this is lead, that is plumbum, and hydrogyrum or mercury. Okay, so lead, mercury, boron, barium, aluminium, they are examples of trace contaminants. Okay, so just 3 terminologies that you are supposed to know: major minerals, trace elements, and trace contaminants. Major minerals, don't forget just 5 examples: calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and phosphorus. In trace elements, at least remember iron, iodine, fluorine. Then 3 C's are very important, or rather easy to remember: copper, cobalt, or chromium. I have just mentioned this in relation to the alphabets. Okay, from M you can have manganese and molybdenum. As far as S is concerned, there can be silicon or selenium, right? And trace contaminants. Is it clear with this aspect? So either you may get 2-mark question on major minerals or trace contaminants which is asked. Now whatever different examples right now we have seen, there are certain minerals or there are certain chemical elements which are clinically important. Okay, so clinically important, if you get again 2-mark question, you are supposed to know these things. So it includes all major minerals. Once again, I have repeated: calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and phosphorus. So all 5 major minerals are clinically important. And from trace elements, it is iron, iodine, and fluorine which are clinically important. So clinical significance, one by one we will see. Okay, so another important terminology is clinically important minerals. Now we'll start about calcium. Okay, so as we said, now calcium, in which category you will include it? Right now you know calcium is major mineral, right? Calcium is, this is, we are going to include as major mineral, right? Now as far as calcium is concerned, this is important for several life processes. Details we will see in functions. Regarding distribution, regarding distribution of calcium in our body, what are the various sites where we can find the calcium? The most important site is we can find it in bones. You can find it in teeth. Okay, bones and teeth. In addition to bones and teeth, you can find it in blood. Another important thing is blood. And if you go at very minute level, what is it? You can find calcium in intracellular fluid as well as in extracellular fluid. Okay, so bones, teeth. In addition to that, calcium is present in blood, it is present in intracellular fluid, and it is present in extracellular fluid. Okay, if you compare the concentration of calcium in intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid, higher concentration of calcium is seen in extracellular fluid. Okay, still there are other sites. These are few important things. Now, if you consider weight of the person, in adult, it is about 1.5% to 2% weight of a person is mainly constituted by calcium. So calcium contributes to 1.5 to 2% of weight as far as adults is concerned. What is average amount of calcium that we can find in human body? Okay, so average, if we are talking about adult person, the average amount of calcium which is present is 1200 grams. Okay, here unit is grams. We have included this under major minerals. Okay, now as far as this total amount of calcium which is present in human body is concerned, okay, near about 98% or even more than that, you can say it is present in bones. Okay, so mainly the most important portion of calcium which is present in our body, it is in bones. Okay, remaining we said, but in addition to bones, there is one more thing that you are supposed to know as far as presence of calcium is concerned, and this is blood. Okay, this is blood. In lab investigation, majority of times practitioners, they give advice to do serum calcium level. Okay, serum calcium level. So here now you are supposed to know what is the normal level of calcium in the blood, or what is the normal serum calcium level. As far as normal serum calcium level, the value given by K-Park is concerned, this is 10 milligram, okay, per deciliter, that is per 100 ml. Okay, 10 milligram. But if you refer to other text, you may get the range as 9 to 11. Okay, but this is an average. Since it is given by K-Park, we will refer to this value 10 milligram per dl. Okay, we are talking about normal serum calcium value. Now the important thing about this calcium which is present in the blood is concerned. Okay, the calcium which is present in the blood, it is present in 3 forms. Okay, we are going to talk about 3 different forms how this calcium is present in blood. Okay, so first it is ionized form. The calcium which is present in the blood, it is in ionized form. Second, it is calcium bound form. Okay, calcium bound form. And third is calcium complexes. Okay, calcium complexes. What is significance of this? Okay, let us try to understand. One thing is very clear. Whatever calcium which is present in the blood, it is present either in ionized form, or it is present in calcium bound form, or it is present as calcium complexes. Okay, so 50% total serum calcium level, we said it is 10 milligrams. Out of that, 5 milligrams it is present in ionized form. Okay, it is present in ionized form. Secondly, the calcium which is bound to different serum proteins, this is about 4 milligram. Okay, and remaining 1 milligram, it is present in the form of complexes. Okay, so this is either calcium citrate complex or it is calcium phosphate complex. Okay, clinically important is calcium citrate complex. Okay, in complex form, at least one thing try to understand is calcium citrate. So whether this basic is clear, what we said, in blood, calcium is either present in ionized form or it is bound to different serum proteins, to which we call as calcium bound form. And the third, where it forms complexes with citrate or phosphate, and there is presence of calcium citrate or calcium phosphate. Okay, as far as ionized form is concerned, this is physiologically active form. Okay, try to understand, this is physiologically active form. As far as calcium bound form is concerned, this is physiologically inactive form. Okay, जो ionized है वो active है, जो unionized है, जो calcium bound है, that is inactive है, right? Now we will try to understand 3 clinical conditions and these 3 forms. Okay, and the serum calcium level. Okay, so how this basic will help you to understand your patient. Now, if there is a child with severe protein energy malnutrition, okay, we are talking about a child with severe protein energy malnutrition, and if you advise serum calcium level, okay, so you may get the finding that total serum calcium level in this child is reduced. Okay, total serum level अगर आप देखते हो कैल्शियम की, तो that is decreased. Okay, but still these children, they won't show deficiency of calcium. Whatever deficiency signs and symptoms of calcium are there, you won't be able to see in these children. Okay, we are talking about children or child with severe protein energy malnutrition. We have advised serum calcium level. Okay, serum calcium level is reduced, but still patient is not showing manifestations of calcium deficiency. Okay, why this happens? Okay, why this happens? Can you guess now what can happen? Can any one of you want to think logically? Yes, what happens in this condition? Though total serum calcium level is reduced, the ionized calcium level, okay, the calcium which is present in ionized form, which is the physiologically active form, is normal. Are you getting it? So since this level is maintained, though total level is reduced, patient won't show signs or symptoms of calcium deficiency. Is it clear? With protein energy malnutrition, total serum calcium level may be reduced, लेकिन साइंस सिम्टम्स नहीं मिलने वाले हैं, क्योंकि जो फिजियोलॉजिकली एक्टिव फॉर्म है वो नॉर्मल है, उसका लेवल नॉर्मल है. ओके, नाउ जस्ट टेक अनदर कंडीशन. इफ देर इज alkalosis, if there is alkalosis, what happens in alkalosis? The pH of blood is elevated. Okay, now in this condition, sometimes that serum calcium level will be normal. Okay, you may get normal serum calcium level, but patient may show manifestations of calcium deficiency. Patient may show convulsions or patient may show tetany. Okay, now why this can happen? Can any one of you guess and tell me now what can happen in this condition? Hmm. Hmm. O- Okay, in relation to the three forms that we said right now, अल्कोलोसिस का पेशेंट है तो कौन सा कम होगा? यस, यस, yes, that's it. That's the very basic understanding. Okay, so what happens? Yes, yes. Hmm. 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 Yes, 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 yes. We are talking about elevated pH level of blood. Okay, right now. So initially I mentioned that. Yeah. Okay. So too good. Try to understand this one more thing. Now one more condition we will discuss as far as this calcium deficiency or the three forms of calcium in blood is concerned. Now if there is patient of PPH, okay, PPH का है तो in this case the patient who is in postpartum hemorrhage shows convulsions. Okay, now how calcium can be related with this? Okay, so try to understand now the third form. What we said, calcium is present in complex form also. Okay, so whenever there is blood loss, citrates are lost. Okay, and this citrate, it combines with calcium, so along with calcium this is removed. Okay, so patient, one of the reason for convulsion may be related with this form of calcium which is present in the blood. Okay, is it clear? This is not part of community medicine, this is just additional thing which I shared with you. Okay, so just to recall what we said is calcium. This is major mineral which is mainly present in the bone. Some portion it is present in the blood where we can get physiologically active form as well as physiologically inactive form, and we can get the calcium in the form of complexes. Okay, and clinical conditions, just we try to understand how these forms are important. Okay, before proceeding further, I will have to end this meeting, so please rejoin again. Yes, so we are talking about calcium. Though few additional things I shared with you for a community exam, you are supposed to know major minerals and trace elements, and third terminology is trace contaminants. Okay, now regarding the calcium which is present in the bones and which is present in the blood, one more thing you are supposed to know that in healthy individuals the dynamic equilibrium is maintained. Okay, so before going to that aspect, just you should have few basic terminologies clear with you. One is the bone resorption, second one is bone mineralization. Bone mineralization. Now what happens in bone resorption? It is removal of inorganic material, or it is removal of the matrix. Okay, that is the bone resorption. And basically the osteoclast, the cells that are present, they are responsible for this bone resorption activity. At the same time, you should know the activity of osteoblast. Okay, the activity of osteoblast, they are mainly responsible for bone mineralization. Okay, so what happens in bone mineralization? Whenever bone resorption occurs, at the same time, new matrix is laid down. At the same time, new matrix is laid down with the help of osteoblast. Okay, so the things are happening simultaneously: bone resorption and bone mineralization. And when it happens simultaneously with the help of osteoclast and osteoblast, okay, you can use the single terminology as remodeling. We call it as remodeling. Okay, so remodeling, it includes both the things. Okay, so bone resorption and bone mineralization. Now how it is concerned with calcium, let us try to understand. Basically, this is mainly maintained, this equilibrium, it is mainly maintained by three different factors. One of the factor is vitamin D. Regarding vitamin D, already we have talked, but this is just one more flow chart in front of you to understand activation of vitamin D. Okay, so what we said, vitamin D, it exists in two forms, right? D2, you see to left side, it's ergocalciferol, or simply you can call it as calciferol. And D3, which is synthesized in our body, okay, with the help of precursor 7-dehydrocholesterol. Okay, so you can see the precursor 7-dehydrocholesterol. When ultraviolet light falls on the skin, it gets converted into D3. But please pay attention here, this is inactive form, and that activation is very essential. Okay, so activation, as we said, it occurs in the liver. So D2 in the liver gets converted into 25 hydroxy ergocalciferol. We are more concerned now with the D3, 25 hydroxy cholecalciferol. Okay, now in kidney, this will get finally activated. Okay, 25 hydroxy cholecalciferol is less active, and we want complete active form. Okay, so complete active form of vitamin D3, you can call it as 1. Here alpha is given, K Park has not mentioned alpha, so simply you can say 125 hydroxy cholecalciferol. And right now, try to remember one more name. You can call this active form as 125 hydroxy cholecalciferol or calcitriol. Okay, so another name for the same active form of vitamin D3 is calcitriol. Okay, D2, it also gets activated in the kidney. Now, what is role of this? We will try to see. This active form, okay, this active form of vitamin D, already in functions we have talked about this, but in relation to calcium, how the equilibrium is maintained, that you are supposed to know. So basically vitamin D, it will help to elevate the plasma calcium level or blood calcium level. And how this happens? So for this, vitamin D, it acts at three sites. Okay, as far as action of vitamin D, we are talking about the active form of vitamin D. We are talking about either 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol, or simply you can say calcitriol. Okay, so this calcitriol, it promotes absorption of calcium as well as phosphorus. It is closely related with calcium, okay, from the gut. Intestine se whatever dietary calcium we are taking, its absorption will be increased. Okay, now simultaneously it has action on the bone. On the bone, it increases bone resorption, and whenever bone resorption is increased, the calcium will enter into the blood. Okay, and that serum calcium level will get elevated. Its action on kidney, it promotes reabsorption. It promotes reabsorption of calcium as well as phosphorus from the renal tubules. Okay, all these functions we have discussed. If at all you can recall vitamin D3, which already recently we had finished. Okay, so now we are just discussing how this vitamin D3 helps to elevate the plasma calcium level. So there are three mechanisms. One is it will increase calcium absorption from GIT. Also it will increase reabsorption of calcium from renal tubules, and it is responsible for bone resorption. Okay, so final result is what you can get is elevation of serum calcium level. Second important relation regarding calcium that you are supposed to know, it is related with the parathyroid gland. Okay, it is related with the parathyroid gland, or it is related with the parathormone. Okay, now this hormone, it is secreted. This is peptide hormone, basically polypeptide hormone. There are chief cells which are present in the parathyroid gland, which are responsible for secretion of this hormone. Okay, now what is the effect of this hormone on calcium metabolism? Okay, so as far as parathormone is concerned, final thing what you can see is increased level of plasma calcium. Okay, whenever there is release of parathormone, and when parathormone will get released, whenever serum calcium level will be reduced. जब ब्लड में कैल्शियम का लेवल कम हो जाएगा, पैराथर्मोन will be released. Now this parathormone, what it will do? Again it will cause bone resorption. It will promote reabsorption of calcium. Okay, and plus it helps in activation of vitamin D3. Okay, so लीवर का जो inactive form था 25 hydroxycholecalciferol, that will get converted into calcitriol, and this calcitriol, it will help in absorption of calcium from the gut. Okay, so another important thing in relation to endocrine system that you are supposed to know is parathormone, and if you understand this, you can come to know if there is hyperparathyroidism, what can happen to the plasma calcium levels, or the other way. There is one more factor which maintains this equilibrium as far as plasma calcium level is concerned. This is calcitonin. Okay, I think calcitonin, all of you know. This hormone which is synthesized from thyroid gland. There are C cells which are present in the thyroid gland, which are responsible for secretion of calcitonin. Now this calcitonin, it has opposite effect. So vitamin D responsible for elevating plasma calcium level. Parathormone responsible for elevating plasma calcium level, but calcitonin will have opposite effect. Now what calcitonin will do? Exactly opposite function. So it inhibits bone resorption and it inhibits reabsorption of calcium. Okay, so just what you are supposed to understand here, there are three important factors that are concerned with maintaining the equilibrium in our body, and it is vitamin D. To be specifically, it is active form of vitamin D. Secondly, it is parathormone, and thirdly, it is calcitonin. Yeah, same image. Here you can see from thyroid gland, calcitonin from C cells. Okay, what will be its effect on plasma calcium level or blood calcium level? It will help to reduce the calcium level in the blood. Okay, so it inhibits calcium absorption. It promotes bone deposition, or you can say mineralization. It will reduce the activity of bone resorption, and it will inhibit calcium reabsorption. Okay, so role of calcitonin is one of the important thing to understand. Now let's go to the most important aspect, that is related with the community medicine. So you may get question related with major mineral trace elements, and as far as calcium is concerned, you are supposed to know its sources, function and deficiency. Okay, so what are various functions of calcium? So I will just go to next slide. We will come to this slide. Okay, so we are talking in addition with functions. Okay, what are the various functions of calcium? So most important thing, calcium, as we said, this is most important constituent of bones and teeth. So how you can describe this function? Calcium, it is required for formation of bones and teeth. Simple. First function related with the calcium. Okay, formation of bones and formation of teeth. Second function that is related with calcium is calcium, it is required for blood clotting. Okay, it is required for blood clotting. As far as role of calcium and clotting of blood is concerned, calcium, it is required for conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. This is required for conversion of prothrombin. This will get converted to thrombin. Okay, simple thing. Role of calcium in blood clotting, it is required for conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. But here try to understand one more practical aspect, that is the amount of calcium which is required for blood coagulation is very small. Okay, so slight deficiency of calcium. So am I audible? Am I audible? Okay, so slight deficiency of calcium, it won't get manifested as coagulation disorders. It won't get manifested as coagulation disorder. Coagulation disorders may get manifested when there is severe deficiency. Okay, when there is severe deficiency, but again you should have to compare. Again, you should have to compare this with the deficiency of calcium which is manifested as tetany. So initially we will get tetany. Okay, so less occurrence of coagulation disorders as far as calcium deficiency is concerned. Okay, coagulation disorders you can compare with deficiency of vitamin K. Okay, very common to occur with deficiency of vitamin K, very rare with calcium deficiency. Okay, so second function we said in blood clotting, and very small amount it is required for blood clotting. Okay, another important function, calcium, it is required for neuromuscular excitation. Either you can say neuromuscular excitation, or simply you can say it is required for normal functioning of nerves, and it is required for normal functioning of muscles. Okay, ideal terminology is neuromuscular excitation. Okay, One more function is there of calcium which is related with neurotransmitters. Okay, I hope all of you know different neurotransmitters present in our body like noradrenaline. Okay, as far as neurotransmitters are concerned, if you can recall the basic physiology, these neurotransmitters, they are present at the nerve terminals. Okay, and they are present in the vesicles. Okay, storage vesicles है उसमें ये रहते हैं. Okay, so these neurotransmitters, they are present in the storage vesicles at the nerve terminals. Okay, now for release from these vesicles, the neurotransmitters, they are released with the help of calcium. So unless and until the calcium enters in the nerve, the neurotransmitters won't be released. Okay, so remember, for release of some neurotransmitters which are stored in storage vesicles of the nerve terminals, calcium is required. Okay, right now we discussed the details related with the calcium which is present in the bones and how the equilibrium is maintained. So same thing in relation with function, how you are going to say bones are the storehouse of calcium. What we can say, bones are storehouse, and whenever the calcium level in the plasma or blood, it falls in case of deficiency. Yes, please mute your audio. Yeah, so what we said कि कैल्शियम जो स्टोर हाउस है वो बोन्स है, एंड whenever there is deficiency of calcium, the plasma level will be maintained from this storehouse. Okay, so this helps to maintain the calcium level in the plasma whenever there is deficiency. Another important thing, this is required for milk production. Okay, calcium plays important role in milk production. So that's why during lactation, you should have to correlate that during lactation also calcium demand should be fulfilled. Another most important function that is related with the calcium is, this is very important thing, it is contraction of muscles. Okay, this is contraction of muscles. Now whenever the intracellular calcium concentration increases, there is contraction, and calcium, it is required for contraction of smooth muscles. It is required for contraction of smooth muscles. So smooth muscles, you can call it as either plain muscles, or to the same muscles we may say visceral muscles or involuntary muscles. You can use either terminology. Okay, but don't forget muscle contraction. So this is required for contraction of smooth muscles. This is also required for contraction of skeletal muscles. This is also required for contraction of skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles, they can also be called as striated muscles or voluntary muscles. So you can say calcium that is required for contraction of either skeletal, striated or voluntary muscles. Okay, and one more important thing, these are required for, so this is specifically I am mentioning atrial muscles, ventricular muscles, or you can say myocardium. So whatever cardiac muscles are there, for contraction of cardiac muscles, calcium plays important role, which is one of the most important vital function. So in the beginning, what we said, there are certain elements or there are certain minerals which are playing important role as far as vital functions are concerned. Okay, so here just in one word, it is muscle contraction. And if you want to elaborate your answer, if you want to increase the quantity, you can further mention that calcium, it is required for contraction of smooth muscles, for contraction of skeletal muscles and for contraction of cardiac muscles. As far as metabolism is concerned, calcium plays important role in metabolism of enzymes and hormones. Enzymes and hormones, okay? Metabolic role as far as enzymes and hormones is concerned. Another important function as far as cell is concerned, okay? Now what happens whenever any particular message it arrives at the cell membrane, whether it is electrical message in the body or whether it is chemical message in the body in the form of hormones or anything, okay? Now this requires transfer of this information to the inner machinery which is present inside the cell, okay? So for this purpose calcium is important, okay? So what we can say, for transfer of message which is arriving at the cell membrane, it is transferred to the inner side of the cell with the help of calcium, okay? Or the same thing we can say as calcium, it serves as second messenger. As far as vision is concerned, calcium plays another important role in vision, okay? As far as vision is concerned, calcium, it is required for conversion of light impulse, okay? Light का जो impulse जाता है, to convert this into electrical impulse, okay? Calcium is required. So indirectly it is required for vision. In addition to enzymes, right now we said this is required for metabolism of enzymes. It is also required for activation of certain enzymes in our body like trypsin, amylase, okay? So these are the various functions that are related with calcium. Few importance you can see here which I underline: muscle contraction, formation of bones and teeth, release of neurotransmitters, its function as second messenger required for blood coagulation, it maintains integrity, permeability and transfer of message, and neuromuscular excitability, okay? So these are the few functions related with calcium. Regarding sources of calcium, the first and foremost thing of your answer, it should be milk and milk products or dairy products, okay? So milk is a very good source. In addition to that, cheese is another important source for this. Milk products like paneer, curd, buttermilk, okay? All these are good sources as far as calcium is concerned. The values that I am giving here are not given by K. Park. These are given by the other author from community medicine textbook. Okay, so if you take buffalo milk, our body or the 100 gram, it gives about 210 milligram of calcium. Okay, if you take cow's milk, this is 120 milligram. Okay, and the cheese content which is given, it is 790 milligram. I'm talking about per 100 gram. Okay, so if we take 100 gram of cheese, 790 milligram is the content of calcium. But these figures are not given by K. Park. So just remember that cheese is one of the important source for calcium. Okay, so don't forget milk and milk products. On the top of the list, it should be milk and milk products. If you compare the amount of calcium which is present in the cow's milk and in human milk, now here I am talking about 1 liter. Okay, if we take 1 liter cow's milk, it provides about 1200 milligram of calcium, and 1 liter human milk, it provides about 300 milligram of calcium. Okay, so here again, breast milk, as far as calcium is concerned, the rich source is cow's milk. There are still other sources also, but I think we should go for the attendance. So it's my kind request to the CR to start with attendance. Remaining part we will continue in tomorrow's lecture. very short part is remaining as far as calcium is concerned. Yes.